Sharing with you in this video how to take control of your attention to take back your power and your life force as a result. I really believe that if we master our attention, if we master where our attention actually goes, what happens is that this is how we begin to take back our power. If we only focus on the external world to feel validated, only the outputs that we're getting in our life, all the external things that are happening, this will always lead to not you being at the highest level of performance that you could be. So the first thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of how to actually do this is to really have an understanding that really attention is the highest currency that you can have. If you want to look at currency, what is the most valuable currency that you have in your life? It is your attention. Because you can have lots of money. It's important to get your money situated, to get your money problems handled in your life. I think that's very important to do so. But really, I believe that nothing is more important than your attention, where your attention goes. Because you got to realize that if you don't have mastery over where your attention goes, who does? Who's really taking control of your attention? So if we don't have control over our attention, so what you're saying to me is that the external world has control over your attention. And so it's almost like you become really like a flying bag in the wind. You know, really that's what you become. You become a floating bag in the wind with zero control, zero direction. And that's not a good place to be. I think that's not the best place to be, because what happens is that you lose all your life force, you lose your energy, you lose all your most valuable asset, your most valuable currency, which is your attention. Your attention is possibly the most valuable asset that you have in your life. So if you begin to see attention as a currency, rather than just this airy-fairy thing, you say that, okay, I'm going to take control of my attention. You will notice that you have more energy, you have more power, and you begin to attract and create the life that you prefer. And so really the second part to this whole process is to understand that if you don't value your attention, if you don't value your attention as the highest form of currency, this is how they manipulate you. You know, this is how they control you. This is how other people, stuff in the outside world, entities, this is how they control you. This is how they manipulate. This is how they, so what happens is that, think about this. If you're not controlling your intention, who is? It's somebody else. It's somebody else, and they are making you go do things that possibly you don't really truly want to do. You feel like you have to do it. That's manipulation, that's control. So there's definitely thought forms popping up in your experience, and it's sort of pulling your attention, making you do things, right? And you have to understand that stuff doesn't happen by accident. There's no coincidences in life. I don't believe so, at least. And so what you need to understand is that you need to, in my personal opinion, you don't need to do this, but I highly invite and encourage you to stop trying to take responsibility for another person's attention, where their attention goes, because you cannot control this. If you respect yourself as a sovereign, conscious, free will being, you will understand that you naturally want to also respect others' free will and their own sovereignty and their own consciousness. So you don't want to control other people's attention. That's not really the highest form of truth. That's not the highest value. I don't believe that's the right way to live. I think that the right way to live is to take full responsibility, full control over your own attention, where your attention goes. So you place your attention where it resonates for you, where you truly want to place your attention. And of course, we have needs. We have human survival needs. And if you feel like you're resonating to go, you have to go do something, then of course go do that. But understand that ultimately, this is how the manipulation happens, is that when you don't take control over your attention. So if there's no responsibility, if there's no control over where your attention goes, you will be manipulated, you will be controlled, you'll be more emotional, you'll be reactive, you'll be upset, you'll be angry more at things. And while all of this is happening, understand, whose vision are you fueling? So I want you to become conscious of this. I want you to become aware that when you're angry about something, whatever is angering you is controlling you. So just be aware of that as it's happening. When you're upset, who's manipulating your energy? Because there's somebody taking that. There's somebody taking advantage of that. So this is how the world works. Rather than getting upset about it, or rather than being more angry about that, and then while that's still happening, you're still falling a victim to feeding somebody else's vision rather than creating your own, what you can do is just start to master your attention. Don't be a victim. There's no reason to be a victim. Just take responsibility. Note, and how do you do this? Just notice where your attention is going. If you begin to notice where your attention is going, it becomes much easier to actually create what it is that you want to create, where you don't need to force things as much. It just becomes much easier. It becomes sort of effortless and sort of easy to live your life, because what's happening is that you do what you actually want. You know, in simple terms, like I could say it in some spiritual way that makes you feel good and makes you feel happy and more motivated. But it's like, the truth is that you just do what you want. You just do what you want, and you stop feeling bad about that. There's nothing to feel bad about. There's nothing to feel guilty about. There's nothing to feel bad about you putting your attention where you want it to go. Like, it's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a negative person or anything like this. What it means is that you have interest to be empowered and to stop letting life just kind of pull your attention wherever it wants you to go. We can start to take responsibility over the fact that we can actually be the person that we truly want to be. So to conclude this video, what I really believe is that high quality decisions and high quality thoughts come from a focus on being. So it's like, there's only so much that you can read in a book that you can just sort of, look in a video or look up online, until you realize that reading and learning more is not going to help you to go to that next level. There's something else that I believe takes us to the next level, which is being. It's being, right? There's two dimensions to life always happening. There's what you're doing at the physical level, and then there's what you're being and who you are being at a deeper level, at a much deeper level. And so I believe that the highest quality decisions, the best possible decisions that we can make in our life, which is you taking the most efficient action. Like, if you're interested in taking the most efficient action where you're being the best version of yourself, the only way to do this is to have a focus on being itself, a focus on being. So while you're doing, you don't want to lose that dimension of connectedness to your being, to who you actually are, the true essence of how you show up in your life. Because of course, yes, we so often want to focus on, how do I do something better? How do I act differently? And the truth is that I do believe life is an act. Life is an act. If you simply, sometimes it's not about really how you feel at all. Like, your feelings don't always matter. It's not about your opinion or anything like this. It's about, like, if you take the right action, you sometimes can just get a better result. Like, it just comes down to that. There's not any rocket science. It's not complicated. It's like, if you look at somebody and look at the results that they're getting, and you want similar results, you can act in the same way that they're acting, and you can get the results that they're getting. Like, it's just really that simple. But then also at the same time, while this is happening, I think that it's simultaneously just as important to also understand that the place that you're coming from while you act, while you do stuff. Yes, life is an act. Shakespeare said it himself, right? That we are in a play and we're all actors. Absolutely, I do believe that to be the case. But also, it is not just that we're actors. It's that I think that in order to be the best versions of ourselves, to again take the most efficient action, to really become more empowered, to quote unquote take back our power, and then take back our quote unquote life force. How do we really do this? I believe that it's focused on prioritizing our state of consciousness and the place that we are coming from while we're doing what we're doing. That's often, I think, that the next level that stops people from actually embodying what they want to do, what they want to be. Like, it's not just going to be about more logic, more thinking, more planning, more information. Like, a lot of times you've already had enough information, like enough studying, enough looking things up. It's just about being. And so I believe that being is about following through. That's what being is. It's not just about your intention, right, and what you want at an intellectual level. It's becoming it, being it, embodying it, actually becoming it, and make it an actual thing. Not just an idea or a dream, but you do it through action. Action is very powerful because when you have the word action, there's literally the word act in the word action. So I really do strongly believe that if you want to be if you're interested in making the best decisions in your life, being the best version of you, right? Really having the best possible quality thoughts, putting yourself in a position where you have the highest probability of achieving the results that you're interested in. I think that it's about prioritizing your state of being. So don't want what you want so much that you're going to be willing to give up your essence, your soul, who you really are, how you caring about how you feel while you're doing what you're doing. And it sounds like a little bit airy-fairy. Some people might say it's feminine to think like this. But if somebody doesn't care about their state of peace while they're operating in their life, that's a person that's not an independent person. That's a person that's given away their essence, their soul, their consciousness, their life force. And that's a huge, huge problem for that person, I believe, whether they realize it or not. Like, even if they don't realize it, even if they're not willing to see it, that's a problem. So in order to navigate this at a much more powerful level, to avoid this problem, I think that it's about remembering and understanding that the best quality decisions that you've ever made in your life, right? When you had the best quality thoughts that popped up into your life, it was when you prioritized how you were, not just which thoughts you were thinking, not just which exact the content that was in your mind, which exact content you were consuming, but you were also focused on how you were showing up and the way that you were doing what you're doing. And I believe that if we embody this in our life, this is what will allow us to become that person that we want to be, and then take our vision to the actual next